Okay, next will be a descending triangle. Okay, so descending triangle, trading patterns. Right, what exactly is a descending triangle? So a descending triangle is also a very, very common pattern in the market. It's a little bit harder to spot as compared to the double top and double bottom, but of course, it's still relatively easy to spot, right? Sometimes used by beginners, sometimes used by amateur traders or new traders. And if you guys want to know more about the theory behind descending triangle, again, to pause the video, take a good read, and you guys will probably have a better understanding on the theory behind descending triangle. If not, I'll carry on to the graphical example. Okay, so descending triangle, what it basically is, it basically represents bearish pressure in the market. It represents strong bearish pressure. Okay, so let me teach you guys how to actually spot the descending triangle. Okay, descending triangle basically has three different things to spot. Okay, so number one would be when there are lower highs. Lower highs. So if you guys have learned earlier, what are lower highs? Lower highs are basically peaks that are successively getting lower and lower. So the next peak will be lower than the previous peak. Okay, so lower highs, lower highs. So what you do is you connect the lower highs with the trend line. That's number one. Okay, number one is your lower highs. Okay, number two will be identifying a flat area support. So you notice that, okay, you know what, price is heading a downtrend. The lower highs are formed. However, there are no lower lows, right? Instead, there are constant lows, which is your support, flat area support. So you see that, okay, number one, lower highs are formed, are connected with the trend line. Number two, you can see that, okay, you know what, there are no lower lows, but there's a support. So you draw the support with this box here. So that's number two. So once you draw both of them, you can see that, okay, you know what, it looks like a triangle now. It's connected by the triangle mouth right over here. So number three will be to measure the size of the triangle mouth. Why must you measure? I'll get onto it later, right? The reasoning behind it. Okay, so number three will be measure the triangle mouth. How many pips? So let's say this 100 pips, then right now here, 100 pips. The mouth is 100 pips. Okay, so that's that. So you spotted a descending triangle. So what's next? So I said on earlier, descending triangle represents bearish pressure. Okay, it represents bearish pressure. So what basically means logically is, you see, it is in a downtrend, right? However, price is getting squeezed in a triangle. So it's getting squeezed. So when there's a break or outbreak of the structure, the break is going to be very big, very huge. Okay, so how do you trade a descending triangle? Descending triangle mainly means bearish momentum. So you trade a descending triangle when price actually breaks through the flat area of support. See over here, flat area of support, which is right over here. So when you see that, okay, you know what? Price broke through the support. What's next? What's next is you can start to open sell positions, right? You open sells after price broke through the flat area of support. Okay, so you open sells there, and where's your TPB? And that's where your triangle mouth comes in. Okay, you can see that, okay, you know what? My triangle mouth is 100 pips. So what's your TPB? You copy and paste your triangle mouth right over here, right? So once it broke through, your TP should also be 100 pips. So if your triangle mouth is 100 pips, your TP should be 100 pips as well. Okay, so that's how you can trade the descending triangle. Okay, and where should your SL be? Your SL should be at above the previous lower high, right? So you can see that lower high is right over here, right? Then that's where your SL should be, just above the lower high. So that is your descending triangle. Represents bearish momentum. That's how you can actually trade the descending triangle, which is open sells after it broke through the flat area support. But of course, okay, there tend to be times where in a descending triangle, although it represents bearish momentum, there can be times where price actually broke out of the triangle upwards instead. So instead of breaking through here, price broke through here instead in the upwards direction. And that is also possible in the market. That also occurs in the market as well. And that is not wrong. Okay, sometimes the market just works in this way. So how do you exactly trade if price actually breaks through upwards from the descending triangle? Okay, so the thing about it is, once it broke through the neckline, or rather once it broke through the trend line, okay, then what you can do is you start open longs here. You can start to open buys. Okay, you just break through the triangle hours, you open buys, and you can put your take profit at the top of the triangle right over here, in the resistance. You can put your TP right over here, or you can put your TP at the next strong resistance point. Okay, and where's your SLB? Should price actually break upwards from the descending triangle, your SL should be under the flat area of support. right? That's your SL should be there. So there are two ways to trade descending triangle. The first way is, and the most common way is, once price break through downwards, then you copy paste the measure of the triangle mouth. There's a TPB, SL should be above the previous lower high. Then the second way is, if let's say price breaks through upwards, then you open longs. Your TP should be at the next key resistance level, and your SL should be under the flat area support. So these are the ways to trade through the descending triangle. But most likely, since descending triangle represents bearish momentum, 99% of the time, okay, not 99%, but let's say 90% of the time, price tend to actually break through the downside of the descending triangle. So that's what descending triangles.